As Hurricane Ian bears down on Florida, cruise ships are struggling to find a safe place to go. Itineraries are being canceled, and I'm sitting right here in the path of the eye. We're gonna go outside and check things out here in just a little bit. Plus, MSC Cruise Line has a brand new ship coming here to Miami at the end of the year, and they've just released some more information about the MSC Seascape. Let's roll the intro. Hey, welcome to the Midships channel. I'm your Captain Corey, and you're probably wondering what the heck this is behind me. Well, I'll tell you, this is a secret you're not supposed to know about. I was intending on surprising all of you with a brand new Midships studio around the 1st of next month. But unfortunately, because of the hurricane, there's been some shipping problems here to my house in Central Florida. So here we go. We're gonna make do with what we've got. I had already started rearranging the set, which is normally behind you, yesterday. So what can you do? Here we go. This is not gonna be the final look, but in the coming days, you'll be introduced to the brand new Midships studio. Make sure you follow me on Instagram if you want a behind the scenes peek, maybe a little bit early. Now, let's talk about Hurricane Ian. He's right outside my door here. The eye, it's about 100 or less miles away from my house here on the southwest side of Orlando. And yes, it's supposed to hit Orlando, maybe even still as a hurricane in a few hours from now. So I'm hunkering down. The power has already flashed several times here. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be going out as Ian makes its way here through Central Florida. So keep your fingers crossed for me if you're out there. Don't worry, got plenty of food and water, and I am way up high here. So flooding is not really a concern. I have been feeding some of the squirrels though outside, who they were just looking sad in a tree. So I put some nuts out, and those little guys went crazy for the nuts. But you're not here for that. You're here for the cruise news, of course. And the big story is Hurricane Ian has 11 odd ships in limbo, somewhere between cancellations and not being able to make it back into port. Let's talk about them all. Actually, let's rewind a minute. I need to teach you some Coast Guard slang here. Well, not slang, terms. The Coast Guard, they set conditions at ports here, including cruise ports in the United States. And there's two conditions we're gonna learn about today, and one is called Condition Yankee, and two is called Condition Zulu. Now, Zulu is the really bad one, Yankee is the fairly bad one, but they both relate to cruise ships because either way, if you see Yankee or Zulu, you cannot get your cruise ship in or out of port. Now, right now, the largest cruise port on Earth is Miami, Florida. They're currently under Condition Yankee, which means any cruise ship is not coming or going anytime soon until that condition is dropped. Now, let's move things north here towards Central Florida. There's a few other cruise ports that are completely shut down. Condition Zulu means we've got gale force winds, imminent, expected, going down. No ships whatsoever are allowed in and out of port under Condition Zulu. Well, right now we have 3 Florida ports under Condition Zulu. We have Jacksport up in Jacksonville. We have my home port here of Port Canaveral. And over on the west coast, on the Gulf side, we have the port of Tampa. All closed completely, no cruise ships getting in or out. Which means there's definitely some cruise ships that are probably wondering how they're going to be getting home. Now let's start with this hurricane update, cruise line, by talking about Carnival. There's 3 ships in question. 2 of them have full cancellations. One of them is sort of in limbo. First things first, we have the Carnival Paradise. Their next cruise completely canceled. Same thing going on for the Carnival Elation. They're stuck in limbo as well. And then that leaves the Liberty, the first cruise ship I ever was on. She steamed out of Port Canaveral earlier on. It might have been yesterday even now, as I recall watching it. It's all a blur getting ready for this hurricane. I just recall seeing it on the local news here. Well, the Liberty is unfortunately having her itinerary altered by the storm. And that's sort of a common theme that we're going to be finding across most of these cruise lines we're talking about. Now, the next one we need to talk about is Celebrity Cruise Line. They, of course, have the Infinity that sails out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and they're not canceling, but they are replacing calls that would have been in the path of Hurricane Ian. Now, next up, we've got Disney Cruise Line to talk about. Unfortunately, the Disney Wish, the brand new ship for Disney Cruise Line, has been forced to cancel her next cruise that was supposed to go out this weekend. Now, there is one more little bit here for Disney. The folks that are on the Wish right now, well, they're actually getting an extra free day on board the Wish because of the closed ports. The ship's not able to get back in, and so there you go. That's a way to get a free day of cruising for some folks on the Disney Wish. Now, it's also interesting, Disney actually closed their theme parks here in Orlando as well, which, if you know anything, that's quite rare. So that tells you a little bit about what's going on outside. And there's a few more cancellations we need to talk about. The first one is Norwegian Cruise Line's ship, the Getaway, based out of Port Canaveral. Unfortunately, the cruise line has informed guests the next sailing for the Getaway, which was supposed to leave September 29th, has been canceled. And another ship sailing out of Port Canaveral is, of course, the MSC Divina, one of my personal favorites. If you haven't checked out MSC, you really should. They're probably the best value in cruising right now. Just manage your expectations. Well, regardless, the next sailing on Divina, based out of Port Canaveral, obviously canceled. And there's one more ship for MSC. That's the Seashore, based out of Miami. A lot of you remember I was on Seashore last week, and there were some issues with Hurricane Fiona that changed our itineraries. Well, to make up for that, MSC had reworked this week's itinerary for the Seashore to help the guests that were affected go to some other ports, which would have been cool, except for now Hurricane Ian's screwing that up even more. So the Seashore is also having some ports changed as a result of Hurricane Ian. And while we're talking about Ian, why don't we just go downstairs and outside in my driveway and take a look and see what Ian's doing right now here in Central Florida. So this is my little weather station. It's got a rain gauge, anemometer for measuring wind speed down here. This will let you know what the direction of the wind is. Got a pretty cool little situation where the thermometers are all inside all the other instruments, and the solar panels keep them refreshed. So it's not mounted perfectly, but whew, so there you go. It looks like we're in for it here over the next couple of hours. I've got my weather station set up out front, constantly monitoring it. So far, we've had several inches of rain throughout the day. The temperature has dropped pretty drastically, and my anemometer, which is a cool name for something that measures the speed of wind, well, she's been spinning around up in the low to mid 20-mile-an-hour range for some gusts, and it's expected to triple as the eye approaches here into the Orlando area. So fingers crossed here on that one. If you'd like to offer some support or some good words in the comments below, I would really appreciate it. And if you'd like to take things a step further supporting this channel, check out the link in the description below to my Amazon influencer store. There you can find everything I take with me every time I cruise, and some really cool cruise t-shirts designed by yours truly. There's a link below. Oh, and if you just click on the link, even if you don't buy anything, well, Amazon still gives me a little kickback. So that's a top tip. Now let's get back to the cruise news. You're not here for the ads. MSC Cruise Line has a new ship called the Seascape. It's part of their Seashore class of ships. There's a lot of sea going on with that class. It's really confusing to me. The Seascape is due to begin cruising for the first time ever out of Miami, Florida as a brand new ship on December 11th of this year. Now, I had hoped to be on board this inaugural sailing, but there is a wedding in the family the day before across the country, so I might not be able to participate on the very first sailing here of the Seascape, but you better believe I'll be on one of the first few. Well, MSC has just released a new lineup of theater shows for on board this brand new ship, and they've made massive changes to what I've just seen on the Seashore. And the Seashore, I thought, was leaps and bounds the best shows I've ever seen on MSC, bar none. Some of their shows like Gravity and Mystic Forest, it's hard to look away from. I can't recommend those shows enough. Well, now MSC's letting us know about 6 new shows that are going to be on board their newest ship. Now, in addition to the main shows up at the front of the ship, there's also another venue at the aft on Deck 8 called Le Cabaret Rouge. Le Cabaret Rouge, as they might say in France. Anyways, that's where the ship's nightclub is. DJ, they do some really cool things with this venue. It's like 3 stories highly technologically advanced. It looks like MSC is going to be doing a sort of dancing show back there as well. Maybe in the theme of the 1920s, which could be rather cool. I know there's a lot of audience participation that goes on at La Cabaret Rouge, so that's probably what's going to be going down. You'll probably be learning, or at least allowed to dance along right up next to the stage or on it. So that sounds pretty cool. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on these new shows coming up for MSC. Have you ever cruised on MSC or seen any shows whatsoever? For my money, I think it's the best value in cruising. You should really check MSC out. Hey, if you made it this far into today's episode, thank you so very much for supporting the channel, coming in during a hurricane day here in Central Florida. I don't know if I let you know because I've had a few problems with the recordings today, but I am literally directly in the path of the eye here in the next couple hours. So keep your fingers crossed for me here. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That's one of the best ways to do it. And leave a like on this video. And until tomorrow, as long as I don't float away, we'll see ya on the Midships. I'm so glad you all got to get a little sneak peek of the brand new studio. Got some lighting things that have to go on. I'm gonna be scooting away here. There's just a whole bunch of stuff coming together, a lot of moving pieces like I told you, but hopefully it all comes together by within the first few days of next month. Speaking of next month, my group cruise is next month. You signed up for that, right? Check out the Facebook link in the description below. Seriously, I would love to have you join, and the rates are way better than what you'll find right now on Carnival. Check it out. We'll see you tomorrow. I'll leave you with some footage from the hurricane. La 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 la.